Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rogue Guy Media. My name is Alex Schlerf, and today this is a little bit of an impromptu breaking news episode. Obviously, it's on Friday, which is usually when I record videos, but I'm in exam mode right now for school, so I am packed with stuff to do, and haven't really had time to do the proper release schedule since Thanksgiving, obviously. And obviously this is Russ, I'm not even shaved or whatever. But obviously we have the big news about Netflix and Warner Brothers. So I wanted to hop on here for I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Maybe I'll do more if I have more to say. And just talk about what it means for movie theaters and just movies in general. And I'm not going to really get in depth into the business side of things. I'll let the people that are the experts do that and kind of decide what's working on with that. I'm sure you can find plenty of articles from I don't know, Bloomberg and stuff like that that'll tell you the really financial details here. I'll give a basic overview for people who aren't totally aware of what's going on, but this is just me more of an analysis on what this will mean for certain franchises, certain movies, and kind of the overall message on why this is a little bit concerning for the movie industry. I'm going to try to be as biased as or unbiased as possible. Well, not really unbiased, but usually I kind of try to steer away from these more things that get into the business or political side of movies, but I think it's really important to talk about this because, like I said, it does threaten a lot of the things that I love about movies, and I know people watching this love about movies too. So I just wanted to hop in here and talk about it for a little bit. So yeah, Netflix is in the works of acquiring Warner Brothers right now. Warner Brothers put themselves up. Not I don't know when they actually put themselves up for sale, but they've kind of been preparing for a sale for a while. They split a couple of their divisions. I think it was 6 months to a year ago. They were accepting bids recently. Paramount was the big favorite, and I think they did something with their bids to kind of anger Warner Brothers, and that kind of put a little strenuous relationship there. And Paramount released a statement about it. I remember not that long ago, a couple days ago. And obviously last night we got all the reports that Netflix was closing in on a deal for all of Warner Brothers assets. That's all their franchise movies. That's their original stuff. That's the TV side. HBO Max, just HBO in general. Well, I think that the actually I think the television side of things isn't. I think CNN and TNT, TBS. I think it's still to be decided if that's going to be involved in the package, but it affects everything. I mean, I'm going to go through a list in a second of all the franchises that DC or that Warner Brothers has under them, but DC, and then if you're looking at original films, Sinners this year was Warner Brothers, Weapons, One Battle After Another. What else this year was Warner Brothers? A lot of stuff. Warner Brothers is obviously one of the big film studios, and I've even had the pleasure of working with them before. And this is going to affect a lot of things, a lot of franchises, and a lot of people. And obviously, the options here weren't great regardless. Paramount might have twisted into a more political side of things because of their relationship with the current president. And Universal was kind of in a similar boat where we weren't sure what the theatrical plans were going to be. Apple was always a wild card here that a lot of people I think would have been on board with, but it just doesn't seem like that's in the cards right now for them. Amazon, I don't think they were ever in the running, but it was typically assumed in this process that it was between Paramount and Netflix. And again, I'm not going to go to the business side of things. I don't know enough about that. I've been reading about the story, but I'm not involved in that kind of thing. But that's just what I know from the process. So now Netflix is trying to acquire basically all of Warner Brothers assets, and it's for a bajillion dollars. Again, you can look up all those details somewhere else. But obviously, the main reason that this could potentially affect, how affect the movie industry and why people are so down on this deal and why I'm a bit skeptical about it is because of Netflix showing in the past that they are not willing to give movies a full theatrical release. Basically, Netflix has become a purely streaming service. Well, honestly, that's how it's always been until recently. They've acquired some movies that have gotten limited theatrical releases, but nothing full. It's usually only in New York and LA. So if you live anywhere else, you can't really see them until and they're basically forcing you to see them on streaming because they know the majority of their viewers aren't living in these big locations, and they know, well, they're not going to drive far to go see these movies. They're not going to if they don't have a theater near them, they're just going to watch on our streaming platform, and that'll get us more money. And obviously, that's what the sentiment from Netflix has been on movies and theatrical releases specifically to this point. So obviously, it's a concerning thing that a company that is so against releasing movies in theaters, and the CEO, I'm going to have a quote from him too in a second, but the CEO has actively said in the past that he's against movies releasing in theaters, and he said um it's like a dead thing. It's not how things are anymore, and he doesn't really believe in theatrical experience, which obviously, I'll get into that in a second, but that's what the concern is here. And, the idea that we have these amazing movies, like, for example, this year was the perfect example for it. And I'm going to give three examples that were great for me. Sinners, Weapons, One Battle After Another. Each one of them was an original story and screenplay. Each one of them was made by a director, Coogler, Kreger, Paul Thomas Anderson, and it was original vision. And it was obviously they didn't make or they weren't expected to make the box office numbers like Superman, Fantastic Four, Jurassic World, stuff like that. But each of them were a huge success for original storytelling because they all made good profits. Or One Battle After Another didn't end up making profit, but it still made a good return. It was streaming and all that, and the awards buzz. It'll probably come back around. And the problem is that the expectation is that, and this is all coming from rumor and speculation. This is not known. We don't know exactly how this is going to go with how Netflix is going to roll things out, assuming this deal was approved. And that's another thing that I should have said earlier. This deal, this is far from over. Like we have to operate under the assumption right now that this is where things are going, and Netflix is going to own Warner Brothers and their assets. But especially after what I said about the relationship with Trump and Paramount, this could easily be blocked. Like this could easily be blocked. It could easily not go through the approval process. Again, I don't totally know how that works. I don't know how that process goes through. I don't know how long it might take. It's probably going to be like 6 months to a year, but still, I don't know about that, but that is still possible. We have to accept that as a possibility, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that this is happening because that's what the industry executives believe. This will go through and this is happening because of many circumstances or many factors. But this year was such a good year for original storytelling. And the problem is, if this goes through and this is what's happening, a movie like Sinners, a movie like One About After Another will not go to theaters. They will not. Now, when you look at a bigger franchise movie like DC, or they have Transformers rights, they have. Well, maybe I'll like look at this list now. I don't want to. It's like a long list. I'm not even going to read out all of it. But the Scooby Doo, for example, The Conjuring, let's see, Evil Dead, like maybe not even that, but we're talking about like the big franchises of Warner Brothers. Those will get, I personally believe, and I think a lot of people believe, those will get theatrical releases. However, it's not going to be a full theatrical run. It'll probably only be 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even limited theaters, and it'll be right to streaming to the point where like it's not really going to entice people to go to see it in theaters, because if 2 weeks later it's already going on streaming, well, if you're not a diehard DC fan, you're just going to go and watch it at home and be cool. I'm going to watch it at home and have the same experience. That's what they're promoting right now. And with movies that are more original movies like Sinners and stuff like that, it's going to be like Frankenstein and Knives Out this year on Netflix, where it's going to be a limited release and then on streaming, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks later. So that's obviously concerning, because it's cool that there's still going to be a little bit of theatrical stuff and maybe they'll build themselves up to it. But not only is that sad, because it is great to go to movie theaters and support these original stories and just general non-IP storytelling, that makes it sad in itself. But at the same time, the problem is that it's going to allow for less of those movies to be made and more folk, well, there's a couple factors into this, but it's gonna make it so less of those kind of movies are made, because the oversaturation of them, because they're only going to streaming, the budgets are going to be messed up. They're going to be less willing to give out these or to greenlight these scripts. Now, the positive out of this that a couple people I was talking to about last night brought up is that, let's say Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler can have whatever he wants now, especially if he wins Oscars in March, which he probably will, or at least gets nominations. If he goes to Netflix, for example, or because he's kind of been working with Warner Brothers a lot recently. So if he goes to Warner Brothers or slash Netflix and goes, hey, I have a new original story and it's testing super well. I have a whole cast ready for it, whole production, whatever, and I wanted to get a full theatrical release. I do not want to put limited theaters. I don't want to put on Netflix 2 weeks later. And they say, well, we're not doing that. Well, when you're Coogler, you can go to another studio and that's being financed. Like that, he can go to Paramount and they're going to finance it. He can go to Disney, they're going to finance it. That's what the luxury of someone like Christopher Nolan, Coogler, Paul Thomas Anderson, Denis, like all of that, and the Dune. I should have said Dune. Dune's involved in this too, obviously. But the problem is that that's the good thing. But the problem is, if you're not one of those big names and you go to Netflix wanting a full theatrical release, you won't get it. Either you have to cave in and make a Netflix original and maybe even on less of the budget, or you have to try your luck at another studio where you most likely won't get greenlit, especially if, other mergers come into play. So it's just going to decrease the value of original storytelling, which is so frustrating because this year was so good for it. We had so many good original stories that came out and made profit and made waves and are going to win awards in March and are already getting nominated for awards, with these Critics' Choice Awards just came out and Sinners and a bunch of them were in there. But so it's just so sad because like this year was doing really well because when a movie like Sinners does that well critically and commercially, it'll promote not only without this Netflix thing, it promotes studios to take more bets on original screenplays because they know that it can happen and is possible with the right filmmakers and the right promotion and the right cast. That luxury will not be given to everyone, and especially in Netflix. It might not even be given to Coogler. Like genuinely, if Coogler, let's use someone else's example. Let's say Christopher Nolan, right? I don't think he's going to work with Netflix, or whatever, but because that relationship's a little not really repaired right now. But let's just say that he does, right? Let's say Christopher Nolan goes to Netflix and well, yeah, I'm trying to remember where I was trying to go with this. Christopher Nolan, he goes to Netflix and he pushes a movie, and he, well, oh, no, that's what I was going to say. If someone like Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, whoever, goes to Netflix and says, I want this movie to have a full theatrical release, maybe by some absurd chance they would give it to him. But that's it. Nobody else. Nobody else is getting that. And again, if you're James Gunn, head of DC Studios, you can probably sell them enough to be like, all right, can we please get a 2 to 3 week or maybe a month release for Man of Tomorrow in 2027, and then it's streaming on Netflix after. And maybe even it comes into play where they release the same day. They've done that before in the past. That happened during COVID a lot. I think Black Widow did that. I think Space Jam New Legacy did that. But like something like that could be in play, but it's not likely. And again, what I'm saying is it is really going to affect not only those big brands for decreasing their theatrical runs, but for these original movies, they're not going to get theatrical releases, and they might not even be made, especially by Netflix. And regardless if I'm saying like, oh, they could go to another studio to get it made, that already just makes it less likely it's going to be made. If there's one big studio, like Netflix / Warner Bros. Is going to be like the big premier studio, maybe besides from Disney because they've already done their whole 20th century and all that stuff. Besides from them, like this will be the studio. This will be the top studio, and the fact of the matter is if you don't want to play ball with Netflix, then there's a chance your movie might not be made. Like who knows if Frankenstein would have been given the distribution rights from anyone else? Like it's just something that is scary and is going to affect. And it's the entire through line of all of this is devaluing the theatrical experience. Which, as someone who listen, I love movies. I watch plenty of movies at home. Sometimes I don't get the chance to watch movies in theaters. They're not showing near me, whatever. But I love going to them, and I understand people that like. I'll say this. I understand people that like to stay at home. I totally do. Movie theaters are expensive. Movie tickets are expensive. Streaming is so much easier. You can come home from work and just sit at home and watch a movie. I get it. I totally do. But the reality is these movies are built to be, to me, the best movies are built to be seen in a theater. The Odyssey being filmed with IMAX cameras, Project Hail Mary, stuff like this. Like these movies are being filmed and created to be shown in a movie theater. That is where movies originate. That is the beauty of cinema. It's the cinema. You go to see it on the big screen, the biggest screen possible, best sound system, all that. It's just not the same at home. It's all right. Like I'm going to watch Knives Out in 2 weeks at home because it won't be showing anywhere near me and I'll still enjoy it. But there's always a difference. And there was multiple times. I think even people who like seeing movies at home would admit this. You'll watch a movie at home, or you'll watch a movie in the theater and then you go see it at home when it comes on streaming and the experience won't be the same. You'll like the movie less because movies are made to be seen in theater. And I really, really believe in that. I just think that this rise of streaming has been fine because it helps. Like TV is obviously all TV shows, the talk about them has gone up huge since streaming came up. But when it comes to movies, it really does frustrate me that it doesn't, that we are seemingly, at least in this case, moving towards an industry that is more focused on showing stuff at home and not in the movie theaters. And, there's been some people that have been looking at this in a positive way, and I think it's mostly just DC fans who like want to believe that this is going to not be as brutal as it is. And listen, cool. I could totally be wrong. We could all totally be wrong. We could look back in 2 years and Netflix has changed their whole strategy. A couple of people brought up the idea to me last night. Why doesn't Netflix start their own theater chain? Maybe they make it a little more exclusive. Cool idea. I like that idea. But if you've been following what Netflix has said as recently as today, here we go. I'll tell you what they said today. This is Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos. I'm not exactly sure how to say his name. Whatever. CEO of, or co-CEO of Netflix, but he's like the talking piece, right? He goes, hold on. That people want to, yeah. So he said previously, this is a direct quote from him. People want to watch movies at home rather than theaters. What is the consumer trying to tell us? That they'd like to watch movies at home. The studios and theaters are ducking out over trying to pressure or preserve this 45-day window that is completely out of step with the consumer experience of loving a movie. So he is actively saying here that the best way to watch a movie is not in a movie theater. He has actively said that, and this actually is not the quote from today. So I'm gonna try real quick to, and if it takes me too much, I'll just cut this out. But I'm gonna try to find the quote that he said today. That's an old quote. Yeah, so he was asked directly if they're destroying Hollywood. I think this is a new quote. And he said, "No, we're saving Hollywood. We're in a period of transition. Folks grew up thinking, I want to make movies on a gigantic screen, have strangers watch them, and have them play in theaters for 2 months. It's an outdated concept." So, the people that are saying, hey, maybe they changed their ways, if I'm watching the co-CEO of Netflix say that, why should I believe that they're going to change their ways enough to allow for this to be, these movies are going to be able to get a long theatrical release? I just have been given no sign that's going to happen. I pray to God that it does. I pray to God that people, Warner Brothers, that James Gunn, that the Coogler, all these guys, Nolan, whatever, can convince Denis can convince the studio to shift their plans at least a little, to give a little bit of leeway, to slowly do it. But I just like, dude, I'm saying that, but I don't even believe it. Like, I can't believe that that's going to happen. And again, it's just sad because it's going to affect. I mean, we just talked about original storytelling, but so many big brands too that if the project is not a slam dunk, home run, huge IP, it's going to stay at home. Like, for example, looking at DC Studios, this won't. By the way, this won't apply for like next year. I don't think this. I think the rumor was that this would kind of be finished up if everything goes through in Q3 of 2026. So like, this won't be affecting productions until at the earliest 2027, and maybe it might be even after that. So that's important to note. So like Supergirl, for example, that's fine. There's Supergirl will play in all theaters. It'll have a long theatrical run, and that's great. These are next week. But it will affect. But like for DC, right? Let's think of DC, right? So we got Man of Tomorrow in 2027. We got the Batman Part Two, which is still not DC Studios, but still under the DC banner. So Warner Bros. Now owns that. And so those movies, ones that are big brands, you'll be able to convince Netflix, I think, to give it a couple weeks. I think you can convince Netflix for that because of the nature of the brand. However, let's say, you know what? Perfect example. Clayface, again, that'll be safe. It's already filmed. It's already under production. That's already in post-production. Late next year, great. We'll be fine with Clayface, I think. But think of the brand of Clayface versus Batman. Clayface is a Batman villain. He is a supporting character, by all means, a supporting villain. I think a movie like that will not get a theatrical release. Or like people were bringing up the Sergeant Rock movie with Daniel Craig that was like is kind of on pause right now, or maybe it was gonna be Daniel Craig, maybe Colin Farrell, no one really knows. But that's another one where like smaller budget movie, less marketable brand, limited theaters, straight on Netflix. Like that's what I think. And like even like I think they own Transformers. Hold on, isn't no maybe Paramount is Transformers. I think I said that earlier. My bad. Not Harry Potter. Let's just say they do another Harry Potter movie. They won't. Let's just say they do. No, that's a bad example. What's like a good example of this? Again, I'm looking at there's literally Discussing Film tweeted like go check out their tweet. I mean, this is literally like endless. Final Destination. That might be a great example. People like Final Destination. Last one made money. Limited release theaters. Because listen, Knives Out, Frankenstein, those are like big brand movies with big casts and notable filmmakers. Like if you show those in theaters, those are getting good box office profits. And I'm assuming Frankenstein maybe not, but I'm assuming Knives Out wasn't the greatest budget in the world, but limited release, Netflix 2 weeks later. That's where it's looking for these movies that aren't like these select few movies that are such big brands that they will be able to release them. And we're not even talking about original storytelling there. I just think those are all cooked. But I guess Frankenstein was original, so it would probably just be limited trade streaming. Whereas Superman, Batman Part 2 will get like 2 to 3 weeks, then probably on streaming. And that's just like, it's just brutal. Because at the same time, if the problem is that like people can't go out to movie theaters because they're busy or too much money, like some people will have to wait like I don't know more than 3 weeks to go see a movie. They just won't have time to. Too busy, struggling on money, on vacation, whatever. Like that's just like I have. Listen, I love movies. I always go as early as I can. But for example, Fantastic Four. I saw it with a friend the first time, and then I saw it by myself again the next week. But I saw it with friends here at school like a month and a half after it came out. And I saw it with my mom probably 3 or 4 weeks after it came out. So like for people like that aren't like these huge fans, it's just going to completely destroy the experience because they're not going to rush out to go see it because they're like, well, I'm busy right now anyway, and it's coming out on streaming in 3 weeks on HBO Max or on Netflix, and which might combine. So they're not going to have any motivation to go out, and then, if those limited releases or those 2 to 3 week releases don't get money, what's to stop Netflix from saying, "Hey, I'm gonna stop those from going out too. We're gonna just put everything on streaming." What I mean, seriously, what's to stop them from doing that? Now, yeah, that's the bottom line with this thing is that it is in every sense of the word is devaluing the theatrical experience. And for someone who loves going to the movies, I love theatrical. I think it's so important. I think it's so important. I think this year specifically, especially from Warner Brothers, was so good at propelling that experience. It was the best year for those smaller movies to do well at the theater and do and become Sinners being like a cultural moment. One after another became super big in social media. Weapons, like all these original horror, like horror movies too. Like I mean, even Conjuring, that's an IP, but it did well at the box office for Warner Brothers. Like that was great, and it's just so sad that after all of that, this is still going to probably go through and it's going to affect anything. And again, Paramount wouldn't have been the best either because of kind of the business and political side of things, but regardless of what side you lean on like politically, like it would have been a mess and a meddling executives everywhere around, and maybe that'll happen with Netflix too. But like it was the lesser of two evils. But for me, the fact that this is actively devaluing the theatrical experience is just it's maddening and it's sad and it's I excuse me. I'd like to be hopeful. I really would be, but again, especially after what Ted said this morning about the theatrical windows, like where is my hope going to come from? Like it's baseless hope, you know, it's just that these things change and things can happen and new leadership can come in and all that, but and it's also important that like apparently Trump does not have the best relationship with the Netflix CEOs. That's another reason this could be blocked. But and you know what? I'll say a positive about this. I think TV will benefit from this because Netflix has already been like that premier TV streaming platform, and now they get all those brands from HBO to come over. Either they're going to start combining the two, or they're going to all be in one, whatever. But like we got, I'm going to read this listing on Game of Thrones. We have Cartoon Network. We have well, what else? What else do we got on here? By the way, like Godzilla and Kong is another one that I didn't even list, but that's on there as well. Looney Tunes, Scooby Doo, the Harry Potter HBO Max series that's going to be on Netflix, the one that's filming right now. And then you have like these big brands like Mad Max and The Matrix that maybe they'll if they struggle to get like another movie coming out, we could get a series on Max, something like or Max/Netflix. Now with this merger happening, so I do think this will help TV. Oh, White Lotus on HBO, obviously, like something like that. But like there's award stuff like that too. But like that'll be fine. We already kind of got that with Hulu and Disney Plus, and it's been good, if not better. Like it's been fine, if not better than it was before. So like the TV side, I'm cool with. I think that'll be fine. We could get some cool. I don't think this is gonna happen. We could get some cool crossovers. I don't know, but that side of it, I'm not worried about. I think that's a positive out of this. I think the TV side will benefit from this. Cool. I'm just worried about the movies, and that's who I am. And listen, I talk about superhero stuff a lot in this podcast, and people know me. I'm not. I'm a Marvel guy. I'm not a huge DC guy, and not because I think it's bad. I just have never connected with many of the characters. I like Supergirl, and then I like Batman a little bit, and that's like about it. I love the Superman movie. I am excited for the projects coming up, and it's really just James Gunn. I love James Gunn, but like I still am sad as a fan of comic movies and a fan of the fact that DC has pretty much revived itself completely after this year with Superman and Peacemaker and Supergirl. I think is going to be amazing. I'm sure I'll talk about that soon. But yeah, I'm just sad and I'm sad for those fans that people and listen, I think it's easy for Marvel fans to kind of trash on DC and kind of be like, oh, we're way more better than you. We've made way more money than you. You guys are always cooked, whatever. But like for me, as a fan of comic book stuff and talking to people who are a fan of fellow comic book stuff, it's just I feel bad for how much they've had to go through with all these mergers and all these Zack Snyder and The Rock and now James Gunn. And now with Netflix, I actually genuinely feel bad. Like the idea that someone would have to watch the Batman Part Two on Netflix like that, and they don't have a chance to go see it in the theater, like that just makes me sad. As a fan of the industry and as a fan of the comic book genre, that just makes me sad. So, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, again, I don't want to talk for too long on this because things might change, and also that's really just the main thing I want to talk about is how I'm concerned about it. And listen, I'm willing to keep uh not options open. I'm willing to keep an open mind. Oh, there it is. I'm willing to keep an open mind about this. And I'm willing to see how these things play out and what Netflix does. Again, I think it'll be great for the TV side. Maybe they will change their ways for the film side, and maybe in 10 years we'll look back on this and say, hey, they devalue the theatrical experience a little bit, but it's still all right and it's still accessible for certain people, and it's still, people want to stay at home, people would do. But like right now, it's hard for me to believe in that. But I'm not doing this. I'm not on here screaming at the camera and getting pissed off at Netflix and Warner Brothers and everyone in power. Like that's just not who I am. I'm not gonna do that. I want to just to let this play out and see how things go. And I mean, I can't do anything about it anyway, but I just wanted to come on here and inform people about what's going on and kind of just get it out because it's been an interesting almost I'm not even almost 24 hours that broke at like what 10 o'clock last night. So interesting like 12 to 15 hours just thinking about this and digesting it and just wanted to hop on here and kind of just break it down. And yeah, I mean, I have this list of brands, but I was going to read this out, but it's literally like 50 things long, so I'm not going discussing film. They tweeted it literally says major IP movies and companies that Netflix will acquire if they successfully buy Warner Brothers, and that was 2 hours ago. Yeah, so go look at that tweet. I'm not going to read that all out, but I mentioned a lot of the important ones in this video, and I'm sure there's ones that I didn't mention that people like, but yeah, I'm not sure really anything else to say. It's and a lot of the reaction has obviously been very negative. And I mean, even just from like reliable sources, I've seen a lot of tweets of saying that Warner Brothers executives have no idea what this means. The industry is very, very down this morning about it, about the whole thing. And I'm very curious to see the reaction of like filmmakers and actors to this. I think most of them will probably just play it safe because they know they might need to play ball with Warner Bros. At some point. But the people like Guillermo del Toro that have been like really outspoken about like AI and theatrical releases, maybe that's the worst example because he literally worked with Netflix. But like, what's a good example? Oh, I think literally James Cameron this week said that he doesn't think Netflix movies should be eligible for Oscars and he would never work at Netflix. I think he really said something like that. So like I'm curious about what someone like him will say about this in response. And again, I'm sure most like probably 75 to 80% of people will kind of be tame in this and not want to get in trouble with these studios. But you never know. I'm just curious to see what the reaction is for this. I don't think my thoughts will change on this a lot, but again, I've been tweeting about this, so I mean, follow me on Twitter to see what I'm thinking about it. I'm curious on what everyone thinks. If there's anything I missed in terms of like factors that come into this, I mean, leave it in the comments, at me on Twitter, DM the account, DM the Roguy Media account, on TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Email me, whatever. That's all in the description. And I'm curious what other people think about this. Most people seem to have the general sentiment on this that they're pretty low on it, so I think that's what it's going to be. But listen, go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why you think either that this is a good thing or that the theatrical experience is not going to get devalued. All that stuff. I mean, seriously, let me know. I'm open to other opinions and talking about this. And I have a feeling I'll be talking about this a lot more, in the next year or so. So yeah, yeah, that's all I have. Again, it's been a busy week. I literally have a sentimental value review like half written in my drafts. I've literally just had no time to write it. Like I will get that review out. It'll be out at some point because that movie is just, guys, it's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. It's one of my favorite movies this year. I have to write a review about it. It's just I'm still collecting my thoughts on that movie. It's incredible. Please go see it if it is showing near you. Again, limited the release. That's international. That's like a different story. But anyway, I have a review written for that. I are like half written. I've been writing in chunks. So busy. But hopefully next week at the worst the week after I can get that review out and a bunch of other reviews once the winter season comes in. I'll have a little bit more time. And yeah, next week I also want to talk about the trailers because if you don't know, we're expected Supergirl, Doomsday, The Boys potentially all next week. So that maybe I'll just have like a trailer recap, or maybe I'll record a quick reaction to Supergirl and Doomsday. I'll definitely talk about Doomsday, like Doomsday and Supergirl. I will absolutely be talking about because, like I said, not a DC guy. I love Supergirl. That's the one character I've been following pretty much my whole life because of the show and reading comics as a kid. And now Red Woman and Tomorrow recently. It is unbelievable. It's so good. That's the comic the movie's based off. Go read that if you haven't already. But I'm going to talk about that trailer, I'm sure. Doomsday, of course. The Boys, I probably won't talk about that, but I'll tweet about it. I'm excited for that as well. So yeah, lots of stuff coming out, lots of news, and this kind of just dropped the whole bombshell and all of it. But I'm sure we're not getting anything like trailer wise today. But yeah, thanks so much for watching and kind of hearing me out on this little reaction slash rant, breaking news episode, whatever. And yeah, I don't know when I'll be on here again. I don't know when I'll be on the website again, but sometime in the next week. So hopefully I can get that sentimental value review done by the end of the weekend or beginning of next week. And the next week is that trailer week, so we'll be big on that. And I'll always be tweeting, regardless of how busy I am. I'll be tweeting my reaction to stuff. So if a movie comes out or a piece of news comes out and I don't post a video, go on Twitter. I'll guarantee I'll have either retweeted something or tweeted something about it. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for all the support recently, even with me stepping out for a little bit with break and now busy with school. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you when I see you.